What were you doing before wrestling, and what prompted you to want to even be in this crazy business?
Number one, I was in the nightclub business, and I was running nightclubs. But before I ever got my chance to run my first nightclub at 22, which was it was a rock and roll joint. Just one bar, one big bar, and a little area for the band, and could jam 200 people in the club. So that's where it started. But the week before I started that job, because I've been working in clubs since I was 17. I started with the day crew, cleaning up the bar, and worked my way to being a bouncer, bar back, bartender. I'd done it all by the time I was 22. But I also trained to be a professional wrestler for about 3 months, once a week, which you don't really learn anything once a week. I had like 3 little independent matches, because back then a clothesline was a finish.
Right.
We're talking about 1978. And it didn't work out for me, and I hurt my knee really bad. And then I started running that club, and I got lost in the booze, the broads, and the party. Because there's, the only reason guys love to play sports, but the reason why you want the number one position, meaning quarterback or whatever, the reason why you play in a band, the reason why young men do anything is to get pussy. And when it comes to running a nightclub, there is no easier way than to be running a club to get pussy. Because, you're the guy who controls, you're the guy that everybody wants to know, you're the guy that can buy the round of drinks, you're the one who's catching a buzz, whatever you want, or every night, and you got women there all the time. So I got lost in just having such a good time. And then wrestling blew up in the 80s, and I was so pissed at myself for not paying my dues. I didn't pay my dues, and now wrestling blew up. I could have been in the middle of all of that. And for me to say that, most people would go, get the fuck out of here. What makes you think you could be in the middle of all that? Well, in its biggest heyday ever in the 90s, I was one of the biggest names in the world. So I guess I could have done it back then if I really would have put my mind to it. But I always look at, well, what if I got too lost in the whole party, and didn't really know how to handle the fame? Because that's where guys get lost. It's why you see actors who are on fire. You see them in everything, then you never see them again. Almost likely their ass got too big for their ego, and they stop putting all the work in, and they're getting fucked up all the time. And that's very easy. You get lost in, the booze, the pills, the whole deal of the 80s. Those guys, that's why so many guys died so early. They were run so hard, and they ran it hard all the way around. So it tailed off into the 90s, and now today, because of the WWE's their I guess you call it drug testing, but their wellness program, let's call it that, because they really don't have any of the problems that we had back then. Because they only, those guys are like, if you're taking a painkiller or a muscle relaxer, you got to have like a script with its detail. And you can only take them so long. They will not let you get hooked on them. And that's what, happened to a lot of guys, because you can't fake gravity. You beat the hell out of your body, and then you party. And it's going to take wear and tear on your body. So, and that's like a 3-part question for you right there.
Absolutely.
Answer.
Absolutely. This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're talking with Diamond Dallas Page. I'm going to kick it over to the Morning Star, Will Huckabee. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing great. Mr. Page, talking about the lifestyle of getting banged up and doing all the prescription drugs and stuff, do you think because of the age when you really started getting into wrestling and really started getting at the top of the card, do you think that was one of the reasons why you didn't really fall into that scene, because you had lived that party life so early in your 20s that by the time you got to the fame and the money, that was already out of your system?
Well, it took a long time to get to the fame and the money. A really long time, even when I got into wrestling. But I think that, starting at 35 obviously is a negative, because I'm starting so much older. And like I say, Michael P.S. fell down laughing, because by the time you figure out how to do it, you're going to be too old to do it. That was the mindset of not only P.S. but of also Scott Hall. But being 35 was also a blessing, because I was just a little bit smarter, than I would have been at 25. I wasn't going to do some of that crazy shit. I did some, I did a pretty damn good springboard, off the top rope, clothesline, but I didn't go for the hurricanranas or any of the other stuff that I could have done, because I thought, well, one bad move and I'm screwed. So, and then, when it came to the pills, my mentor was the biggest drug addict. It's been documented over and over again about Jake. And, when I was on the road with him, one time I remember him taking a Percocet and chewing it. And Percocets taste like shit if you chew them. And I said to him, why did you just chew that thing? And he said, because it gets right into your system. And I thought, I've seen him do this a couple of times. I said, how many is that you just took? How many have you taken so far? He said, I don't know, 8 or 9. 8 or 9 painkillers. Plus we're drinking. So, I thought, I'd heard about guys taking, the muscle relaxer somas, and you start out with 1, then you go to 2, and then you take a couple hours later, you take 2 more. Well, 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 4. I knew guys that took 5 at one time, and then took 5, expound down, and then took 5. So I needed those fucking things to work. So that was my biggest thing. And plus, you remember, I came from the bar business, and I had already weaned myself off of drinking every night. And by the time I got into professional wrestling and going from being the manager to making that move, I was probably drinking about 3 nights a week. And you gotta remember, when I was drinking, if I wasn't drinking, I might have 3 or 4 shots and 5 or 6 beers. I'm not drinking tonight. But as I really got into wrestling, I went down to 2 days a week. Sometimes 3, but most times 1 as my career went on. Because the Mickey Mantle, one of the greatest baseball players of all time. If you don't even know anything about baseball, you know who Mickey Mantle was. And Mickey Mantle hit over 500 home runs. And Mickey was one of the biggest drinkers maybe ever in professional sports. I can't imagine if he had my mindset that I had. But he was also a kid and looked like Robert Redford. He was as handsome as could be. You look at Mickey toward the end, he looked as weathered as he could be. And that's what the booze will do to you. Now, I gotta believe that Mickey Mantle might have hit 900 home runs. If he had it anyway. But all those guys just drank really hard. In our generation, it was drinking and the pills. In the 80s, was a lot of coke. But today, again, you look at the wellness program WWE has, it's a whole different animal there. Because of all that, you learn all the way through that.